Well, good day. So, for today's video, we're gonna go to the not-too-distant future and talk about a Jetsons Halloween spooktacular. Ooh! So, alright, let's go.
Yeah. So, we start off with George Jetson telling a scary story to his son Elroy, their dog Astro, and Orbity, the alien. It's a scary story about the monster known as the Creeper. Elroy has no problem with this story, right? Like, he's heard 100 of these different scary stories. But Orbity, oh man, Orbity does not like scary stories in the slightest. The dude totally turned yeller. And like, literally. Which is horrible because now Orbity can't really sleep, and when he does, he has horrible nightmares. A nightmare where all of the Jetsons are vampires, and they're all scary monsters. Ooh, man, like, poor guy, he just wants to sleep. But no, the next day, George is working on his magic tricks as he goes by the name the Great Jetsoni, much to the undelight of Jane and Rosie, because George, God love him, as much as he tries with his magic tricks, his tricks never really wind up working. They kind of do, but mostly they kind of don't. But does that ever stop George Jetson? No! Because the man has passion for magic. Meanwhile, Elroy and Orbity are going costume shopping for Mr. Spacely's Halloween party. They need to look swanky and spooky. So they go to Dr. Scarum's costume shop and wax museum. Unfortunately, Dr. Scarum and his robotic assistant, Edgar, well, they're both pretty much down in the dumps. Their business is not booming as it used to be. Nobody wants to go to the scary wax museum anymore. A lot of their costumes aren't selling like they used to. It's all stale, old news, totally square. He might be going out of business. But Dr. Scarum sees Orbity and he's completely fascinated by him. Like, what is that furry little thing? That adorable little furry thing. Dr. Scarum figures that Orbity would be a great part of his collection. But this place is scary and Orbity is already on edge thanks to George's scary stories, so he leaves while taking Elroy with him. Gone. But, as we said, Dr. Scarum must have Orbity for his collection, so Edgar goes out to kidnap them, I guess, freaking Orbity out and ultimately failing to capture them. Later, at Spacely Space Sprockets Incorporated, George is putting Mr. Spacely through one of his magic tricks gone wrong, and of course, this is the perfect time for Mr. Cogswell of Cogswell Cogs to call Mr. Spacely and to make the usual Halloween bet that they have every year. 5,000 space clams for whoever has the better Halloween costume. I don't know who actually decides who has the better costume of the two. Is it put to vote? Do they decide on their own? Who knows? All I know is that Mr. Spacely got so worked up with George's failed magic trick that he decided to up the ante to 10,000 space clams. Which is really dumb considering that Mr. Spacely doesn't even have a costume yet. Man, this guy's kind of a space brain, hey? Jeez, how has his company not gone out of business at this point? So George, in order to keep his job, tries to find Mr. Spacely a fancy costume, where he winds up at Dr. Scarum's costume shop and wax museum. But when Dr. Scarum finds out that George is Elroy's dad, and therefore they are in orbit of Orbity, well, Dr. Scarum sees an opportunity to get Orbity. and he invites himself into the Jetsons' home to give George some magic lessons. Inevitably, Dr. Scarum and Edgar show up at George's place as they put on a little bit of a magic show, which, actually, that's super fantastic. A professional magician doing some magic tricks for you in your home? Pretty cool. But also, not that cool, because when they perform the old switcheroo change places trick, well, Dr. Scarum, Edgar, and Orbity all disappear. Which, disappearing, that's not how the switcheroo trick is supposed to work. Jeez. And I stuck up for this guy, hey, calling him a professional, and he totally botches this trick. No, wait a second, he didn't botch it. He kidnapped Orbity. Later, back at Dr. Scarum's costume shop and wax museum, George and Elroy break into the shop to save Orbity because, realistically, where else would Orbity go, right? Clearly there are some nefarious shenanigans going on, and Dr. Scarum needs to be stopped because Elroy figures that he will put Orbity into the wax museum exhibit. And he doesn't want his furry alien friend turned into wax. Oh, that's horrible. So after the Jetsons and the Scarums have a bit of a tussle, bit of a biff bam boom, the Jetsons save their furry little friend from being turned into a wax figure. But, actually, no, that's not right. Dr. Scarum didn't want to put Orbity into his wax museum. He wanted to use Orbity for a new costume idea. Man, Orbity looks so freaking interesting and so completely unique. Who wouldn't want to have a nice furry costume of this little creature? Making Orbity costumes is basically like printing space clams. So I guess, the day is saved. Yay! No one is being turned into a wax figure. Dr. Scarum's business is not going out of business. And George will give Mr. Spacely the first Orbity costume off of the assembly line. With this costume, Mr. Spacely is a shoo-in to win the 10,000 space clams. But, or not, because with the costume idea this hot and everybody wanting to get an Orbity costume, yeah, unfortunately, Mr. Cogswell got an Orbity costume as well. So nobody wins the $10,000 bet. It's a tie, but apparently, they have a tiebreaker of whoever won last year gets to win the money from this year, which kind of sounds like that was just made up on the spot by Mr. Cogswell, because he's a jerk. But unfortunately, Mr. Spacely can't argue that, because George made him disappear in another stupid magic trick gone wrong. Oh, George. And with that, that is the end of this, Jetson, you're fired! Tail!
So yeah, man, that was a pretty cute and quaint little episode. Not as spooky as I thought it would be. When I was first watching it, I thought the episode was gonna be all about Orbity's dream, the vampire version of the Jetsons. And how Vampire George would still have to kiss Mr. Spacely's butt. Not sure Mr. Spacely would be a vampire though, but not sure what other creature he could be. Maybe a werewolf? Well, for him, more like a were-chihuahua. But when we got to the nitty-gritty of it, with, Dr. Scarum, it wasn't too bad. They did do a pretty good job of trying to portray Dr. Scarum as some kind of a nefarious villain, doing who knows what to Orbity. Which is kind of funny, because in the real world, if he wanted to make a costume of Orbity, he could have just asked him, And I guess asked the Jetsons as well. But then, if you did that, you wouldn't have an episode. And Orbity was fine with the whole thing, right? Even after he was kidnapped and getting measured by Dr. Scarum, Orbity wasn't scared and turned yellow. He wasn't sad and turned blue. Nope. He was his regular color, because he was cool with it. And we were all glad to see that, but really, Orbity was kidnapped. Which I'm pretty sure in the future, kidnapping would still be illegal. I hope Dr. Scarum gave the Jetsons a whole lot of money, for the image likeness of Orbity with all of the money he's making from those costumes. But that would be a pretty boring episode of just like legal mumbo jumbo, so what we got was actually pretty good. If you haven't seen this episode yet and you kind of want to get into the Halloween spirit, then I would suggest you check it out. But with that, we do have some more behind the scenes kind of things with, Dr. Scarum, a bit of Orbity, and some other kind of stuff going on over here.
So yes, hey, the Jetsons Halloween! Not really a whole lot to talk about with this episode. Like, it is a pretty neat little Halloween episode, right? It's got scary stories, it's got scary villains, it's got cool costumes. The only thing it's missing is trick-or-treating. But, for the story itself, getting ready for Halloween, getting your costumes and all that kind of stuff, that's something that everybody can relate to and something that is pretty cool. Especially if you're really big into Halloween costumes. And speaking of costumes, we get to our antagonists, Dr. Scarum and his robot buddy, Edgar. And these two characters I really do enjoy. Because if you know me, you know that I love the story of Frankenstein. The book is awesome, and I absolutely love that first feature-length movie with Boris Karloff. So good, so good! So to have a stand-in for Dr. Frankenstein in this episode, mwah, I love it! So Dr. Scarum is our Dr. Frankenstein in this story, so much so that he has a hunchback assistant helping him. Even though in the book he never had a hunchback assistant, he did it all himself. But in that movie, he did have Fritz, which became a pretty popular sidekick for the character. So to have Edgar stand in for Fritz, and to have him as a hunchback robot, eh? Oh, so good. And yes, currently in popular culture, Dr. Frankenstein's assistant is called Igor. But, in those old classic movies, Igor was a completely different character. But I digress. Not only that, but we do see them trying to make a giant robot come to life. A robot they call the Moon Monster. And a moon monster that looks like a robot version of the Frankenstein creature. Although a robot that likes to dance more than it does to, scare children and stuff. But it is kind of interesting how Dr. Scarum's wax museum and costume shop is struggling financially. But, it does seem kind of odd, people are not buying certain costumes anymore? What? No matter what year it is, you're always gonna see some kids dressed up as the same type of costumes. There will always be a vampire, a ninja, a cowboy, Batman. A lot of costumes really do not go out of style, so I really don't understand how he's going out of business in that regard. The Wax Museum? Sure. As he says, people at this time are more interested in holograms than they are wax figures. That's just the price you pay for living in the future, I guess. And I guess also with that, if his costume shop goes out of business, will that building be turned into a spirit of Halloween? The irony! Poor Dr. Scarum. But, it is what it is, right? A nice, light-hearted Halloween episode. So it's all good. But, that's all I gotta say about this episode. Like I say, there's really not much to it other than what you've seen. So I will leave things there, and I'll go shopping for some Halloween candy. So, with this, that, those, and the other things, I guess that's that. Also, if you're interested, I created my own comic book channel, 215 Comics. And currently, I have created my own cartoon series, The Adventures of the Density. And recently started a radio series featuring my newest character, Elastomorph, with more titles to come. So if you want to check it out, I'll leave a link up top here to that channel and some links at the end of the video. Yeah! Right on, and there you go. So thanks for watching the video. I hope you liked it as much as I did making it. Also, feel free to check out the source material that I featured in this video. And if you want to leave a comment on anything you may have liked or things I might have missed in this, feel free to do so. Or anything else, just to say hi. That's cool too. And other than that, have a great day. Thanks.